So I have some content planned coming up about using Elementor to build a site specifically for photographers, but really just in general, I want to show how to use Elementor to build sections that we can copy from other sites, or we can take inspiration from other sites one section at a time and put it together to make it your own. I've had this idea for a long time about creating something I called kindling, which is basically like the little pieces of wood that you need to start a fire. You know, my main business is called Fuel Your Photos, and I had a Blaze Photography, and I was kind of going with this fire theme, and so kindling was going to be the theme that had all the little pieces that you would need to build your website, which was kind of the beginning of the fire if you're thinking about your business. So that was the idea, but I started off by building my own theme, or taking a theme and forking it and trying to make it my own, and it really just ended up being a lot of work, and there was going to be a lot of work in maintenance, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted in the end. So I've decided now to just use what other people have already created, use a theme that already exists, and use Elementor, and just start to make some sections that I can package and give away or sell. But also I want to show people how easy it is to use Elementor and WordPress. WordPress does not need to be hard. People make it hard. It can be complicated if you use the wrong theme, if you use the wrong plugins, if you have the wrong setup. It can be hard, but it doesn't have to be hard. And I want to show you how easy WordPress can be, how simple it can be, how minimal it can be, and how well it can work if you use it the right way. So that's what this series is going to be all about today. I'm just going to do a little bit of an intro to show how I set up WordPress and the theme that I'm going to be using and Elementor, and just kind of get that whole thing ready to start building. Figured it would be a good idea to go ahead and record this as I'm setting it up, because a lot of people won't know how to set up this these first few steps. If you already have a website set up with Elementor, and if you're using Astra or another similar theme, you can skip this, but this is going to be the setup from scratch. All right, so let's come over here into my Cloudways account. So Cloudways is the hosting that I'm using currently for almost all of my sites. I've tested a few others. I'm really liking WPX as an option for people who need a more managed solution. And SiteGround is still one of those that I recommend if people just insist that they need cPanel hosting, shared hosting, and they see that price tag that it's lower for the first period that you pay. Like, those are all decent options. There's some other things I'm thinking about testing, but for right now, you cannot beat the price of Cloudways if you're talking about something that has a user interface where you don't need to be a system admin, a server admin to be able to understand it, right? You could just go directly to Vultr or DigitalOcean or Linode or whatever, or AWS. You can set up your own servers that way, but that's really complicated. And with Cloudways, you get the same technology, the same world-class servers that are lightning fast, that are running some of the top applications from the biggest companies in the world, and you get a simple, easy to click through and just set up the applications that you want interface, and a pretty easy management interface once you get used to it. There are some downsides to Cloudways. The technical support isn't, well, the technical support is good. The customer service is decent. It's not what you would be used to with something like SiteGround or even something like Bluehost, which I never recommend. But those, you're going to have a phone desk or help desk that they're there understanding that people know absolutely nothing, and they're trained to like do things for them to get it up and running. The Cloudways support team, from what I've experienced so far, they are expecting you to know the basics, to have a little bit of an idea of what you're doing. And if you're not comfortable setting up WordPress or transferring your site via WordPress plugin, which is all very easy to do, but if you can't do that, or you don't know how to change DNS settings on your domain, this might not be the best solution for you. You might want to look at something like WPX or SiteGround, where they'll hold your hand a little bit more in the beginning. However, I'm also going to be making some videos to go over how to do this stuff, and it really is easy. And you only need to do it in the beginning, and after that, it just runs. Like, it just works. I will say the very technical support on Cloudways has been some of the best that I've seen when I have issues that even I'm not sure how to fix. And you got to remember, I do this all the time. But if I see something and I'm like, I do not know what's going on here, and I get on and I describe the problem to the support team, they're always able to give me a very technical answer or be able to fix it for me and understand these complex problems. Whereas if I took that complex problem to someone on SiteGround, they would have no idea how to fix that. So I feel like the support staff that they have is very technical, which is good. But anyway, enough about Cloudways. And what you need to understand if you're using Cloudways is that you have servers and you have applications. All right, so servers, you're paying for basically a virtual server. So let's see if we can go to Cloudways and look at the pricing. Basically, you start off your plan with buying a server. All right, so you have DigitalOcean, Linode, Vultr, AWS, Google Cloud to choose from. These are all different services that offer servers. I typically go with one of these first three. They're going to have lower price options that are going to be just as good. If you don't know that you need AWS or Google Cloud, I would stay away from them. They're expensive and a little more complicated. So let's stick with one of these three. Typically right now I am going with Vultr because, very, very minor differences, but I've seen tests that say it's a little bit faster. And what you get, that $11 a month. Let's see, 1 gig, 1 core, 25, 1. They're like it's exactly the same stats as the DigitalOcean $10 a month. So you can go with this DigitalOcean $10 a month. I've been using that one as well. Either of these. So it's $11 per month, and when you do that, it's going to set up a server. All right, the server is, like I said, it's a virtual machine. It has its own IP address, and I probably shouldn't be showing these on the screen right now, but it's really no big deal. And so, yeah, that is what you're going to get with the server. You'll be able to go in and access some of the settings for the whole server. Most of the time, you're not really going to need to do anything with that. Then you have applications which live on that server. Now, you can see in mine, I have 8 applications, 29 applications, 9 applications, 1 application. So you can have more than one application on a server, and all of those applications share the resources. So the 1 gigabyte of transfer, which is a lot. Like we're talking most sites, 25 to 50,000 visits a month. You're probably going to not hit that 1 gigabyte. You're going to be really close to it. I'm pretty sure that's the transfer. 25 gigabytes of storage, but you share that amongst the applications that you have on the server. So you could have 50 or 100 websites if they're all very, very small websites with low traffic. Most of the time, like this one, I started running out of resources on some of these. That's why I have so many. I need to consolidate these and just up the resources on one. But anyway, the point is I have several servers. You may only have one in your account, and then you add applications to the server. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over here to applications, and I'm going to add a new application, and we're going to just call this, we'll add this to we'll add it to my Vultr, and then we're going to call this, so I just picked the server that I wanted to add it to. We're going to pick the application, so we're just going to go with WordPress 5.2.2. Now you have a couple of options. You definitely don't want to do multi-site WordPress unless you really know what you're doing. Clean just means there's no Cloudways optimization, so they do a couple little things to the WordPress install if you use theirs, which I think is fine. They're going to automatically install Breeze, their caching plugin, and a couple other little things. So I just go with the one that they optimize, and then you have the one with WooCommerce already pre-installed. That's important to choose this if you plan on using WooCommerce, mostly because they will make sure that it works with their caching automatically. So WooCommerce can have some issues with varnish, and by default some of these have varnish turned on the server. So anyway, the point is that's all really technical, but if you're going to use WooCommerce, start with the WooCommerce version of WordPress that they offer you. Otherwise, you can just start with this regular version of WordPress. You also have other things you can do here. We're not going to get into that because we're just talking about WordPress. All right, so then we are going to name our app. We're going to call this New Kindling. We're going to call this 2019. How about that? 2019 New Kindling. Don't worry about the project. I've never understood this. It's really hard to add a new one. It doesn't really matter at all unless it's just like another way of grouping. All right, so then add application. And you can see right here it says it's going to take approximately 2 minutes. I usually find that it takes a little bit less than that. And whenever that is done, you will actually have a WordPress website ready to go. And now it will be on a dev URL, a development URL, and you'll be able to access it. You can send it to people. It won't be using your domain. Now, if you want to set it up with your domain right away, that's really easy as well. But typically what I do is I'm going to build these out with the dev URL till it's ready to publish, and then I'm going to make it live with the domain. So see, that's done already. We can go over to applications, and let's just do this by date created, and we have that. All right, so this is what it looks like inside the applications settings. Now, there are a few things in here that you may want to do if you're working on a brand new site. And if you go into application settings here, typically what I will do is I will disable varnish, because that will cause some caching issues while you're building. If you're making tons of changes, this is basically a server-side layer of caching. I may not be saying that technically correct. I think that is pretty much the right way of saying that. And you'll be like refreshing and refreshing, and it will be still showing you the same thing. You'll be like, what did I do wrong? Where did I not save it? And it's because varnish needs to be cleared. And so later on, once you've got things where you're making changes much less frequently, I would turn this back on. It does speed up the site quite a bit in most cases. Now, there are some cases where you may not want to turn varnish back on, depending on the applications you're using. If you're using WP Rocket, you need to make sure you have the varnish setting enabled. But in general, it's a good setting to have. Now, one other thing, I will go ahead and enable the SSH access. This is basically allowing me to use FTP if I want it. I'm probably not going to be using that right now, but I'm going to go ahead and enable it. You can disable it later. It's just a security measure if you don't want anyone to be able to access via FTP. It can really turn down the ability for people to hack based on FTP vulnerabilities. So I'm going to turn it on because I'm going to use it during the development process. Once you have your site running, if you're not going to use FTP, leave this off. And access is enabled. That's all good. We are good to go. All right, so then let's go back here to access details. All right. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to automatically set up a random URL for you. If you go to this, you'll be able to see, look, we already have WordPress installed. That is a WordPress site. Now, it's obviously very basic. There's nothing to it. It's just some default information. You can click right here, and it will take you to the WP admin. Now, mine's going to automatically use this email address, and I'm going to copy this password right here. It automatically generates a password for you. You can always get it right there. Now, you can go in here and set up a new user and password once you get in. You just go into users, and you can add a new one that's a administrator and set whatever password you want, and just keep the one that Cloudways set up as a backup, or you can change the administrator password, whichever you would like to do. I'm not going to save that right now. All right, so, and then you have database access stuff. If you are needing to get into the database to make some changes, you know, if you're used to cPanel, this would be the equivalent of PHPMyAdmin. It's just a different interface, but same access to the same information here with a database manager. And then if you want to have FTP access, I'm not going to show you that because it would reveal more of my information, but just go back to your server. And then when you connect to that server, the application name is this right here, this like XNXG, ZV, blah, blah, blah. If I have multiple applications, once I connect to my server via FTP, I just click into the folder with that random name. It's random like that for security. Again, I'm showing you this here. It's really no big deal because I'm probably just going to delete this. It's just for testing purposes and showing in this video. Okay, so we now have a WordPress site set up. We have the WordPress backend set up. Now we're going to go ahead and do some of the steps that I will typically do when I first set up WordPress. All right, first of all, let's get rid of this welcome to WordPress, and we're going to clean up this thing right here. This bugs me. We're going to hide this message. We're going to go here and we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of, we don't need quick draft, and we don't even need activity. Let's just keep at a glance. You can even turn that off if you want, but then it looks too blank. So I keep at a glance. Look at this. No notifications. at a glance, simple, clean dashboard. I like that. All right, now let's go into plugins, and we're actually, even though I told you like use the settings that they give you with the optimized version, and Breeze is good. However, I'm not going to be using Breeze right now. I don't want any caching while I'm doing development in most cases, at least not in the beginning stages of development. So I'm actually going to just delete all of these, including Akismet. Akismet is great, but technically you need to pay for it to use it commercially. So if you have a business and you're using it on your website, you should be paying for it. It's like $5 a month. So now we have zero plugins. We're actually going to even go in here and we're going to trash the post, and we are going to trash that sample page. Now to get started, we are going to add a page, and we are just going to call it get it here. There we go. Home. All right. So we'll just publish that, and you know, we'll do a post, and we'll call it test post just for right now. Test content. And what we're going to do also is really quickly give that a featured image. Let me just upload something here. Let me see. Hang on one second. I'm going to get something random I can upload to that. Photos. I'm trying to find something that's small so I can upload just something really small. Where is it? I don't want to use that. Here we go. Let's see if that's... Hopefully this is relatively small. This will work. All right, so just put an image on there. I'm just doing that so that we'll be able to, as we're setting up the theme, we'll at least have one post so that we can see what it's going to look like if we add a post widget or something like that. All right, so then we're going to change a couple of settings. We're going to come in here to settings. Right off the bat, you might as well go ahead and change this. So the site title is going to be your business name, exactly like you have it in Google My Business, preferably. I'm just going to call it this kindling theme for right now, and a site for setting up Elementor sections, something like that for right now. Just don't leave it as just another WordPress blog, and don't try to put random or all of your main keywords or anything in the site title. Just keep these like this. All right, that's good. Make sure your email address is correct. So that's where you're going to get all your WordPress notifications. We'll save those changes. And then we're going to go over to reading, and we're going to set the home page to home. Save. One more thing, we're going to go into permalinks, and we're going to change this to post name. Save. It's good to go ahead and get these things out of the way so that they don't break things later on as we're setting things up. Okay, so now we have a really good, clean, fresh install of WordPress. It's nothing. Like, it's literally blank. All right, and that's what we want. So we're going to go ahead and start with a theme. All right, the theme that I'm going to be recommending and using right now, which, by the way, we have 3 themes in here. We don't need 3. I always keep one of these as a backup. Let's go ahead and delete 2017 and delete 2016. And we're going to add a new theme. And we're going to look for Astra, A-S-T-R-A, install it. This is already in the WordPress repository. It's a free theme. Boom. We are now using Astra. Easy as that. All right, like I said, I'll keep 2019 in case I ever need to test. Maybe something's wrong with the theme and I need to go back to a default WordPress theme. That's a good way to do it. So we can look and see. We've already got a different look. We've got a different kind of header, body section, footer already set up. Now with Astra, your main option, you have an Astra options here under appearance, and you can do a few things here. And with Astra Pro, you'll have even more options. A lot of these things you cannot do. So you get more options available only with Astra Pro. You can actually build out a lot with just Astra, no Elementor, if you really want a very, very basic site. I mean, you can even see they have starter site templates. Astra and Astra Pro, they're really cool. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. But if you go into Customize under Appearance, you're going to have the Theme Customizer. And this will allow you to do several things. Right now, it doesn't really matter because we're going to take over all of this with Elementor. But just sometimes you want some defaults to fall back on. So let's go into global container, and let's see. We're going to keep that actually like it is. There's a section we want to look at here for sidebar. So default layout, no sidebar. I don't want a sidebar. But you can make it so the posts still use right sidebar or left sidebar if you want. But anyway, just as a default, this would be what my pages will look like. All right, there's a lot of other things you can set by default in here. I'm not going to mess with them all right now. Make sure you hit publish on that when you're done with any changes that you've made. But just so you know, Astra options, you have some options here, and then Customizer, you have even more options. You know, while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and create a menu. This would be better if we did this like with a few pages, but we're going to go ahead and set one up. We'll just call it primary menu. We're going to click create menu, and then we're going to just add this home to our menu, and we're going to save the menu. All right, so now we have a primary menu that just has the home page on it. We're going to come back to this in the future, but it's good to go ahead and set this up just to have something here. Now, if you're not setting up a site from scratch and you're trying to create something from an import, this may be a different process for you. You may want to set up a menu with all of the pages just like you want them to be, but there are a lot of things in Elementor or in Astra where you can just drop in the default WordPress menu or any WordPress menu that you've saved here, which, by the way, I can create a new menu and call it something else, and I could drop in that secondary nav or you know, special nav for the sidebar or something like that that has different pages in it. This is the place where you can create menus in WordPress that you're going to drop in with other, like with the builder in the future. All right, so we are getting somewhere. It doesn't seem like much, but we have the starting of a site here. You can see, again, completely blank, but there's a couple of things we're going to do here before I start moving into other videos with design. We want to set up a couple more things in this beginning stage. So the first thing is we want a child theme, because there may be some things that we want to do that are a little more advanced. And as I go forward in the future, I'm going to start saving some sections and special elements, design elements, things like that into a child theme that it's available for you to download. So you'll either be able to just download my child theme or a child theme that you purchase, or you can go ahead and set up a default child theme for yourself. All right, so what we're going to do is just go type in Astra child theme, type that into Google, and you'll get this first link right here. It's on the Astra website. It's got child theme name. We're going to go ahead and hit advanced options. We're going to call this Kindling. Actually, we'll just call it Kindling. That'll be good. This is going to be version 1.0. I'm the author. This is my website. Okay. Thing is a child theme for Astra with I'll come back and customize this more later. If you want to write something here, you can. You don't have to write something here. Now we need a file, just a preview file here. You don't have to do this. You can skip this. But let's go ahead and do this really quickly. So it says 1200 by 900. Let me scoot this out of the way for a sec. Ooh, almost closed it. So let's call this Kindling. And then let me create new in Photoshop. 1200 by 900. Why did that change back to 1280? Okay, create that. And let's just drop in, hang on, I'm going to look on my computer over here. I know I have one somewhere. Give me just a second. And Kindling. See if I have it here somewhere. See if that works. It's loading. Just thinking about it. This looks really dumb, but I'm just going to bring it over here anyway. There we go. Kindling. I have a better logo for that somewhere, but this is what I'm going to use for right now. I'm just going to save this as You can do it as a JPEG or a PNG. Let's just call this kindling. And we're going to choose that file. Again, this is not critical that you do this. Like, you don't have to have this preview. I'll show you what it does in a minute. We're going to generate. All right, so that's going to automatically give us this zip file right here. Now we're going to come back over into WordPress and we're going to go into themes and we're going to go to add new and we're going to click upload theme and we're going to just take this little zip file that it gave us, drag it right onto here and click install. Okay, it says it worked successfully. We're going to activate it. Now you can see that's why I put that little preview image in there. So it helps you to see. Otherwise, it's just going to use the same one as Astra, and it gets a little confusing. You have to like read it to see which one you're looking at. That just helps you differentiate here. Now, this is the active theme, kindling. But if we look at the theme editor, I want to show you what this actually does. It says, don't mess with this if you don't know what you're doing. All right, so you can see right here that I'm editing the theme kindling. And you can see right here that I have two files in this entire theme, the theme functions file and the style sheet. The style sheet gives this information about, it's what it just generated basically. The theme functions, right now, all that's in this theme function file is telling it, hey, we're a child theme, go get all of the stuff that you need from the parent theme, which is Astra. All right, so if we click over to Astra, you can see how many files are in this, and this even has more in these folders. There's lots of files to make a theme. But with a child theme, what you can do is essentially override the parent theme with whatever you put in here. So it's going to use the style sheet style.css from my child theme before it uses the one from the parent theme. It's going to use the functions file here before it uses the one from the parent theme. Basically, you're giving yourself a way to edit the theme files so that if there's ever an update to Astra, you don't have to worry about clicking update and it overriding your changes. All right, so if you're ever going to do any kind of custom edits to your theme in the PHP files or in the CSS files, it's good to start from the beginning with a child theme. Also, based on depending on some things that you change in the customizer, they may go with your theme. So updating your theme or changing your theme without a child theme can make some of the customizer options get wiped out. That's a little complicated depending on how you're switching and stuff like that. But anyway, the point is, even if you're not going to use this right now, there may be some tutorials in the future where I give you something and you need to add it to functions.php. This is a great way to make sure that you're not going to completely screw up your website. You can also save a version of this, like that zip file, just save it somewhere in your hard drive. And worst case scenario, if you make a mistake and wipe this out, you can like go back and just re-upload the blank child theme and it will go back to whatever before you made those changes. Hopefully that's making sense. It's an extra step and you don't have to do it. You could just use Astra without a child theme, but in my opinion, it's worth starting from the beginning with a child theme. All right, so now we have our child theme set up. If we go back and look here, it should look exactly the same. No changes. And we're still using Astra as our theme. The child theme is just a way for us to add customizations. All right, so Astra is still the theme. The kindling, even though it says it's the active theme, is just whatever we add to it on top of Astra. Hopefully that makes sense. And then we're going to do one more thing. We're going to go into plugins, add new. And we're going to add Elementor. It's pretty important. Elementor Page Builder, install now. Now this Elementor Page Builder is free and it's in the repository, so you can do exactly what I just did and add it. Great. It's got a guide there if you want it. Don't really want it. Now we've got this thing here. Again, go back to screen options here. Boom, I don't need that crap. Okay, so now we have Elementor installed. Now, here's the thing. This is where you'll stop if you don't want to use Elementor Pro. If you're going to be building a site with Astra only and you like the way that Astra looks without a page builder, so like if you go on to Astra, let's say you're going to start with some of their starter sites. They have starter sites that are built with Elementor where you will not need Pro. You could start with one of these for example, let's just say I want to start with this, and you don't necessarily need Elementor Pro. You can download this and start with it, and you'll be good to go. I may do a future video on starting with Astra starter sites, because there are some nice ones here. But I'm just going to tell you my recommendation, and the way that I do this is that I use the free version of Astra. I don't use Astra Pro, but always use the Pro version of Elementor. There's just so many extra features of Elementor Pro that are absolutely worth the cost. Elementor is relatively cheap. Let's go look and see what the current pricing on it is. For just one site, it's $49 a year. And you can do 3 sites for $99 a year, or Expert gives you 1,000 sites. Obviously, this is what I have. One thing to note that they don't tell you right here, and at least right now, this is the truth, and it has been since I've signed up 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it first came out. This is for the first year, but they renew at 50% discount. Okay, so if you got this one, then the second year when you renew, it's going to be $49.50 or whatever. Same thing here. This has been $25 a year. Mine is $100 a year after the initial year. Now, they may change that in the future and charge you this every year, but for right now, they're doing a 50% discount on renewals. All right, so basically, you can buy Elementor. Let's go ahead and sign into my account really quickly here. And once you've signed up and you've bought Elementor, oh, I should not be showing that on the screen. That's not good. I'm gonna have to blur that somehow. All right, so then you just click download your plugin. It's gonna come down here just like the other one did if you're using Chrome. And then we're gonna go back and we're gonna go to plugins, and we're gonna go to add new, and we're gonna upload a plugin, and we're going to drag this up here just like we did before with the theme, the child theme. Install now, activate plugin. Okay, now you'll only need to do that once, and you'll need to connect it. So we connect and activate, and it's going to want either a license key, or it's going to want you to basically type in your account, and it's going to connect to it automatically. So connect. This is the easiest way to do it. You can click where it says like connect manually, and then you'll be good. So all right, so one thing to note is that if you're using a dev URL like this and you do what I just did and connect that, whenever you go live, whenever you make this your actual domain, you will need to disconnect and then reconnect Elementor for it to work properly. Now, your site will still work once you go live, but for you to like make any new changes or use the features going forward, you'll have to disconnect and reconnect. Especially important if you have the one site license. You'll have to definitely disconnect it and then reconnect it. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is WordPress, clean and simple. We have a theme and a child theme. We have Elementor and Elementor Pro, and it's blank and ready to go. All right, so in the future, I will be making videos about what we do next. How do we take this boring site and turn it into something beautiful? Something, I mean, you can see all of these examples are all built on Elementor with Astra. Almost every site that I have is built on Elementor and Astra. You can do literally anything you can imagine. Almost anything with Elementor without much code. Now, I say much code, you may need a little bit of CSS to be able to do some really crazy things. I use a decent amount of CSS to really perfect my sites with Elementor, but even if you don't know CSS, you can still do almost anything that's not really crazy. And with even some very, very basic CSS that you could like look up online, you can do some even pretty crazy things. And then if you know PHP, obviously, or if you hire a developer who does, you can literally do anything you can imagine, maybe with a little bit of JavaScript, like those kinds of things. You can do anything. Okay, so anything you can imagine, it can be done with some combination of plugins, coding, etc. But most things, like almost anything you're going to see here, you can do without any code. All right, so you can really make some beautiful sites that, I mean, look at that. That looks really nice, modern, simple. It's going to be responsive. You should be able to do this with no code at all. So that's what we're going to focus on in future videos. How do we take this blank site and build it into what we want it to look like, one piece at a time? And hopefully I'm going to be able to do that. And as I create these different sections, I'll make them templates. And you'll be able to just download those templates and start with them instead of having to do this from scratch. I want to show you how to do it from scratch if that's something you want to do, and so that you'll understand how to modify it. But if you just want the templates and you just want to take what I've already done and run with it, then you should be able to import those. That's one of the really nice things is here in templates, I can go into saved templates, and then I can click import templates, and I can just import things that people have already made or that I found on other sites, and those will be available in my library. I can add them to my pages instantly. So really easy to use, really flexible. Anything is possible. Fairly lightweight. Let's do a quick test. We'll do GT metrics, and we'll do PageSpeed Insights, just so we can see like what does this look like out of the box, right? We've got Elementor installed. We've got, I guess we're not using Elementor on that page yet. Let's do that just to be fair. Let's hit edit, and then let's click edit with Elementor. And then let's add a simple heading. We're not even going to edit the style or anything right now. We're just going to say testing speed. Okay, so now we know that Elementor is active and loading on this page, so we can kind of get the full weight of what this would look like. Let's refresh that and make sure that's showing up there. There we go. Okay, and then we are going to run this really quick. I don't expect this to be perfect, by the way. Don't have any caching set up. Haven't done any other kinds of optimizations, but I want to show you that hopefully, I'm doing this blind, but hopefully it's not terrible, right? Mobile 82, desktop 95. Those are pretty good scores for being blank. Now this is actually surprisingly slow. 3.6 seconds. I don't even know how it's counting that. Render blocking resources. See, most of this is Elementor stuff. Now with good caching, you can basically defer this, combine some of this, and definitely increase your scores here. See, that's looking more like what we would want it to look like. Anyway, that's something I want to dig into in the future. We want to get this even better. Like, we want to be able to get almost 100 on these right out of the box. But for now, this is not going to let me do it that way. Let's try it without that. For now, this is a good start. It's not going to be a slow site right out of the box. It's not going to have tons of bloat that it doesn't need to have. Elementor is an imperfect solution that I think is one of the best solutions considering what's available, right? Based on, I mean, if we're talking about what it can do, what's possible with Elementor versus it's not working because of HTTPS not actually being verified on this site. Anyway, we know that it's going to be relatively, we can try pingdom real quick. It's going to be relatively fast. And I have done plenty of sites with Elementor where once I have, let's do this from, it doesn't really matter. Once I've got the right caching set up, turned back on varnish, and set up a full page, even with photos, it still can be under a second on Cloudways with Elementor. It's totally possible. Load time 346 milliseconds here, but it's not showing me a preview. I don't really love pingdom. Make through HTTP request 20. Anyway, you get the idea. That's giving me an F with 27 requests. That's pretty strict. Okay. This is a ready to start theme. We will go on in the future with Elementor. One more quick note. you do not have to use Astra to use Elementor. And whenever I create the sections and pieces for Elementor, you'll be able to import those even if you're using a different theme. If you don't use Astra and Astra child theme, many themes will allow you to use these Elementor building blocks. Elementor can take over for almost anything. Now, I would not recommend using Elementor on top of Photo or Flow themes. These are sites that are themes that have their own framework. Basically, they have their own builders, and putting another builder on top of them is a mess. I would not recommend using Elementor if you already have a page builder, if you're already using Beaver Builder, if you're using Adobe Bakery, if you're using any other theme that has a builder, a visual builder. Don't use it on top of Divi. Those would be bad ideas. Okay, but if you have something like Genesis, or if you have something like one of the other, there's Hello, there's what's the other? There's Ocean, WP, there's one other really big one I can't think of, Generate Press. All of those are built for this kind of thing, and they'll work just as well. And you'll be able to go through the same process, almost exactly the same. It's just you're going to pick a different theme, and you're going to, they're probably going to have a child theme generator on their site, do the exact same things. You can use a different one. So if you want to do some research and figure out, like, is one of them a little bit faster? Basically, I'll tell you what happens is they go back and forth. All right. I like Astra because I like the ecosystem that they've built and the entire development team and system around it. It seems pretty solid to me for right now. That could change in 2 or 3 years. And to tell you the truth, if you're using mostly Elementor to override the theme, you could change from Astra to Ocean, and it's a few clicks, and it should stay almost exactly the same. But sometimes there may be some benefits to one or the other depending on what exactly you're trying to do. So don't get too hung up on that. Astra is a good option for starting. It doesn't have to be what you use. Like I said, Genesis is another great popular option. You could build on top of Genesis with Elementor if you want to. But I would say Astra is a great free option that is pretty fast and pretty lightweight, pretty good defaults. So that's where we are. In future videos, we'll take it even further.